Let's get this thing going. The fuck is that?
I want to play a game.
Your YouTube channel has grown exponentially over the past 2 months, and yet you continue to not put out a video every single day for your loyal and loving subscribers.
So?
Underneath the carpet which you stand is an explosive plate. If you move from this area,
Shit.
you will indeed meet your end. For the next 24 hours, you will take a live stream request from all 5,000 of your subscribers and do anything that they want you to do.
Live or die. Make your choice.
All right, I guess we're taking viewer requests, guys, so send them in. And we got one. Sean Chandler asks, give a full 2-hour analysis of why Alien 3 is the greatest film of all time. Really, Sean? Oh my God. All right, send them in, guys. CP of Will I Like It Reviews asks, rank and review all 12 of the Friday the 13th movies. Fuck, okay, I can do that. All right, guys, one more and we're out of here. All right, last one. Tyler Tompkins says, rank and review all of the Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey films. Fuck it. So Jigsaw tells the story of a group of people who wake up in a series of visceral traps. You also have some detectives and some medical personnel who are all trying to solve murders, solve where these people are at, and figure out whether or not Jigsaw himself is actually back from the dead or there's a new copycat on the streets. First and foremost, let me go ahead and get this out the way so I can go ahead and avoid, hopefully, all the Saw fanboys cussing me out in the comment sections below. Yes, I admit fully, I am not a gigantic fan of the Saw franchise right off the bat. Let me put that out there before that even gets into the discussion in the comment section. I like the first movie, although I think it's extremely overrated for what it did. I really enjoyed the second movie, like the third movie. Don't give a shit about anything after that. I've seen them all. There's a reason why you can buy all 7 of them for $9 in one little Blu-ray clamshell. Eventually, I'll review them. Maybe I'll like them more upon second watch. Most of them I've only seen once, but get that out there right away. I am not a gigantic fan of this franchise.
Puzzle piece. But Jigsaw has been dead for 10 years.
It's not him. Can't be.
This was on the body. The truth will set you free.
But with that being said, I had very high hopes for this movie. It has been quite a few years since Saw has been every single October donning the big screen and been a Halloween staple. It's been a long time since they've tried to write a script for Jigsaw. I figured with all the time that has been between films, with especially the directors that are involved with this, the Spierig brothers, who have done 2 incredible movies, Daybreakers, a badass vampire movie, and Predestination, one of the wildest and best time travel movies that I have ever seen. So very high hopes for their involvement in this movie. To me, there felt like there was no reason to revive this franchise unless they had a really damn good idea on either how to really cap this franchise off with a great final installment or how to bring some new life and some new blood into this franchise that maybe will spawn a few more great sequels. Unfortunately, my hopes were crushed completely when I saw this movie. Gonna get that right out of the gate. I didn't like this at all. This was a terrible, terrible movie.
The blood under the fingernails of our victim, it's John Kramer, the Jigsaw killer.
That's impossible.
Getting the positives out of the way first, I think that it's the best shot and it's the best looking of most of the Saw movies. It moves along a lot quicker. It feels like they trim a lot of the fat out of this movie and it seems very, very streamlined for a Saw movie. Towards the back half, even part 4 to a degree, of the Saw franchise gets really hung up in convoluted storytelling. It goes all over the place. You got 18 different plot lines going on at once. You got 15 different characters in every single movie. You get torture porn and convoluted storyline. And it's just, to me, cheap editing to make the movie seem like it's smarter than it really is. Keep in mind, so I'm not a fan of the franchise. But this movie feels like it kind of evades a lot of that. It feels much more streamlined, and it's much easier to get through, in my opinion, especially if you're not a big fan of the franchise, than most of the Saw sequels out there. Something else that they did in this movie that I actually appreciated was they kind of make it to where this is a very accessible movie for the most part. I think that it would help if you've seen at least 2 or 3 of the Saw movies to walk into this one, but if this is the first Saw movie you've ever watched, you're not going to be lost. There's a few details you'll miss. You're not going to quite have the punch of some of the twists and surprises if those surprises work for you, but it's not a movie that requires you to binge watch all 7 of the previous movies to understand the plot and the twists and the surprises of this one, which I appreciated because most of this franchise I've only seen once, the year that it released, so most of my memory of those movies is gone. I would have been lost if this was a movie that required you to have the knowledge of all 7 movies before you could understand what's going on here. So I appreciate that direction. And the last positive that I give, which some people might consider spoilers, so I'll throw a little spoiler tag up here, but it's honestly not that big of a spoiler. If you've seen the posters for this movie, if you've seen the trailers for this movie, you know to a degree Tobin Bell is involved in this story. How they involve him, I'm not going to say at all, but I will tell you that both his voice and the way that they utilize the actor in this movie, I thought they did pretty well. I was really interested in seeing how they were going to utilize him, and the way that they utilized him didn't really disappoint me that much. Now, with that being said, that is it for positives, people. All the rest of this review is going to be negative, so strap in. Speaking of strap in, first and foremost, I was not impressed with the traps in this movie. That's one of the reasons you go to see a Saw movie, is to see how wicked and wild and inventive they're going to be with the traps and the kills. And for me, this movie felt lukewarm with the traps. All the traps you were looking at and you're kind of like, I feel like that just doesn't quite fit. That's not really on par with some of this crazy shit they put into most of the other Saw movies. So that was a letdown for me, as well as this is kind of a positive and kind of a negative. It's in that little middle ground area. The gore is toned much, much, much more down in this movie than it has been in most of the Saw movies. Now, for some people, that's going to be a positive because, like me, I'm not a big fan of the torture porn era of horror. I feel like it's kind of an era that I'm glad is over with, and I hope doesn't have a resurgence, especially after a movie like this. So people that don't really care for that genre might be appreciative that the gore is toned down a little bit. But if you're a hardcore Saw fan and you love that torture porn shit, you love as much gore and blood and agony and guts as you can get in a Saw movie, you're not going to find it in this one because it is toned way down. The kills are much quicker, the agony is much shorter, and it's much less of a torture movie and much more of just quick kills and traps. So know who you are. That's either going to lean a positive or a negative. For me, I'm kind of lukewarm on it. I like to go to see some crazy gore, but at the same time, I don't like the torture, so I don't know where to slide that in. One element of this movie that really held back me enjoying it the longer it went on is the characters, and especially the acting for those characters. Garbage. You expect that in the cheap Saw sequels. I did not expect that in a movie directed by the Spierig brothers. And holy shit, the acting in most of these characters is horrible, but there is nobody to root for in this movie. You don't like any of the people who are the victims in these Saw traps, especially after they get into why. One woman in particular, and then you get into the people who are like the medical personnel doing the autopsies. They're so weird and such obvious red herrings, and the suspicious characters that they throw in there that you can't get behind them. And then you get the detective characters who are totally unlikable people. So there is nobody in this movie that you are rooting for. You're not rooting for the detective to win. You're not rooting for the medical staff to win. You're not rooting for anybody in those traps to make it out alive. You don't care. And that is a huge fundamental problem with this movie, because if you're not engaged with any of the characters, you don't give a shit what happens. You're not engaged in any of the deaths. You're not on the edge or tense when they want you to be tense. You're not engaged in the investigation. Are they going to find out who it is? Are they going to catch him? You don't give a fuck. And ultimately, the nail in the coffin for me with this movie is the story, the twist, everything that they try to do to be smart in this movie falls on its face. Not a single plot point that they try to go after to surprise you makes a shred of sense. And I know there's going to be people out there that say you're not supposed to think about these kinds of movies, you're just supposed to enjoy them, but I call bullshit on that, because the Saw series is infamous for thinking that it is the smartest horror series to ever live and just wants to be all convoluted and crazy and cerebral and try to pull the rug out from under you at every single turn. This is a movie that you are supposed to think about, and if you think about this movie for more than 3 seconds, you're going to find plot hole after convenience after shitty writing. It is terrible. I don't mind suspending my disbelief a little bit to enjoy a movie. I don't mind if it stretches reality a little bit, but to go along with how the plan of the person who put this trap together, how he wanted it all to work out, I mean, you have to scoop your brain out and put it in the seat next to you to be able to get through this movie without asking 1,000 questions, because every single detail about this trap, for the most part, relies on somebody being in the exact spot in the exact moment that he wanted them to be, or somebody interacting in a certain way, or somebody making a certain mistake, or somebody doing this the way that he predicted. There is so much shit that if somebody had just taken half a step to the left, his entire plan would have fell on its face and the traps wouldn't have worked. And it's to that point that you're like, this is ridiculous.
No, it's not creepy at all.
How many times in one movie are you going to keep asking the audience to suspend their disbelief that much that all of these people fall exactly in line with the smallest percentage of chance that they would do that to make this killer's plan work? It's ridiculous. And it did not help that all of the twists, all of the story directions, and all of the surprises that they have in store for you are all things that they have already done in this franchise multiple times. There is absolutely nothing in this movie that brings anything new to the Saw franchise whatsoever, which is the biggest middle finger to me, because why would you revive this series? Why would you get everybody excited for this brand new movie? Why would you take years to make a new Saw sequel if you don't have anything new or interesting or inventive to bring to it? You basically just stole and copied and pasted from a couple other movies that we already got years ago, threw a brand new shine on it, put a new title, Jigsaw, on it, and fed us the same shit that you fed us before, and I can't stand that. And aside from the fact that we've seen every single twist and surprise that they deliver in this movie in previous installments of this franchise, the twist itself is ridiculously predictable. If you've seen any of the other Saw movies, you're going to be able to tell the direction that they're going with this within the first act, because there's so many things that stand out, and I'm not going to spoil it, but there's so many details about how the victims in these traps act in comparison to how the people on the outside of the world act that just does not add up. That's going to make your brain kind of turn and go, oh, it's probably going to end up this way. And it does. And it's for that last point alone that I honestly hope this movie does not make a whole lot of money financially at the box office. I hate saying that. I love horror. I love supporting horror. I love cheering on horror. And I love to give people second chances to win me back like I did with this movie. But for the big middle finger that you gave me, giving me absolutely nothing new with this movie and getting my money for the literal translation of the word cash grab, I hope you don't have the means to make another one, because you're going to do the same thing again and the same thing again and the same thing again, and we're going to have 6 more Saw movies that you can buy for $3 at Walmart, and I don't want them to have the opportunity to do that. So I'm sorry. Can't recommend this movie at all. Extremely disappointed. Even though I'm not a Saw fanatic, I had high hopes for this one. I thought they were going to bring something great to it, and they didn't. They just brought the same shit that somebody else has done before, and I'm extremely disappointed at the fact that the Spierig brothers now have this on their filmography, because these were directors that I was keeping my eye on, and it was honestly their names on this movie that sold me and bought my ticket months ago. I didn't care what the trailers looked like. I didn't care what the posters looked like. The fact that the Spierig brothers were written on this poster was the reason that my ass was in the seat, and they did nothing with it. I don't know if they didn't have the means to do anything with it. I don't know if they weren't didn't have enough notoriety to make decisions, and this was basically just them being directors for hire for a studio that had more power than they did. I have no idea, but they certainly didn't bring any of their style or anything that I think they are worthy of to this franchise, unfortunately. Sorry, they didn't. So if you're a fan of the Saw series, I recommend you save that money to go and see this in the theaters and just go out to Best Buy and buy that 7 Saw movie series on Blu-ray. Sit at home and have a nice little marathon of the series that you love. Do not go and see it get watered down and shit right back out like they did with this movie, because everything they did in this, you will find to much more enjoyment in the previous installments. So definitely skip it. So what do you guys think of Jigsaw? Are you a Saw fan? Are you not a Saw fan? Did this movie bring anything new to the franchise to you? Or did you honestly feel like I did, like this was just a cheap retread and the definition of a cash grab and brought nothing new to this franchise whatsoever to justify bringing it back after so many years of this franchise being gone and getting everybody's hopes up? Put all of your thoughts on Jigsaw down in the comment section below and we'll talk about it, guys. Please like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. If you want to check out my social media links, I got Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter down below in the video description if you want to see that, as well as the link to my Patreon page, which is a great way to support this channel and get exclusive content for your eyes only if you decide to be a patron. If not, totally cool. Just enjoy the videos here on YouTube, and you can enjoy much more by clicking right over here.